Our next presentation is Holostem, and I'd like to welcome Matteo Piazza, Business Development and Commercial Director, to the stage.
Good morning, or good afternoon, who is under jet lag like me. So the company is called Holostem. The presentation is extremely brief, and you will understand why during the course of the presentation. I assume I have to press this one, yeah? So the company was created in 2008, and in 2015, the first product received conditional approval. The product is called Holoclar, and is for the treatment of limbal stem cell deficiency. It's quite a complex product. I will describe you later during the presentation. After the approval of Holoclar, we move in creating a pipeline of other additional cell and gene therapy products. All of them focus on rare disease, epidermolysis bullosa, different kind of epidermal rare disease, and which, as you can assume, doesn't pay a lot. So in 2022, the company went under voluntary liquidation, and it was acquired, luckily, by a very large venture fund supported by the Italian government. So the company changed the name. It goes from Holostem Terapie Avanzate to Holostem. I mean, it was not a lot of fantasy in changing the name, but it is what it is. And in 2024, we restarted operation as Holostem, and we restarted commercialization of the product, delivering of the pipeline, developing our own product, and mostly treatment of the patients. Where we are based in Modena. We are a fully integrated pharma company because we have a commercial product. For some unknown reason, we should have stayed a biotech company, but we decided that for the rare disease, direct commercialization is better. So we have our own GMP facility with 2,500 square meters and additional building for QC, archiving, offices, and so on. So the company is, that's the company, effectively. What do we do? That's a promotional slide created by a consultant, which I personally like. We have a fully integrated continuum. We start from the patients, we collect the biopsies, we analyze the biopsy, we expand the cells, and I will tell you later about the manufacturing process. We expand the cells, we create the tissue graft, and we reimplant it back on the eye of the patients. In the meantime, we take care of everything which is needed, the regulatory process, registration of the product, manufacturing, release, GMP approval, everything. So we are a fully integrated company, despite it's a very small company at the moment. That's another promotional slide. It's called Leading the Field. We publish, to arrive at the point where we are, to commercialize the product, we publish in major peer review journal, Nature, Lancet, New England Medical Journal, but that's just, it's a slide that has no real importance. What is important is this slide. So what's our pipeline? Holoclar has now got full approval from EMEA, not from FDA. We're working on that. Holoclar has got full approval from EMEA in 2024. It has conditional approval in 2015, because at that time, the clinical path for this kind of therapies was not really well established. So we jumped directly into phase 2/3. We got the conditional approval, but now we have, under a retrospective studies of many years, we got full approval. We have 3 main products, of which we are currently focused only on one for historical reason. Those products are all focused on epidermolysis bullosa. Epidermolysis bullosa is a rare disease, mostly the one which is called Hologene 5. It's targeting the junctional epidermolysis bullosa. There are something like 10 patients all over Europe per year, and this is the only gene therapy treatment for this kind of disease. There are other treatments which are treating the symptoms, treating the infection, treating the inflammation process, but Hologene is the only full treatment, and we tested on not a lot of patients, 5 patients, because that's a rare disease. It's really difficult to find a suitable pool of patients for this clinical trial. The other are just variants of Hologene 5, and they are targeted to different layers of epidermolysis bullosa. Some of them more common, some of them less common, but the 7 is mostly the dystopic epidermolysis bullosa, which is less severe than the junctional, but a little bit more widespread into the population. What's Holoclar? Holoclar is indicated for the treatment of older patients with LSCD, limb stem cell deficiency, both unilateral and bilateral. It's currently distributed and reimbursed in 8 countries in Europe, but our goal is to cover all the countries in Europe with a centralized approach. I'm not going to enter into the details because it's quite boring, but the product has a very strong surgical intervention need. So the surgeon has to take the biopsy in a specific place. The surgeon has to remove the leftover of the epiderma from the eye of the patients and graft back our tissue into the patient eye. So there is a huge amount of surgical dexterity in this process. That's why we are amenable to centralization. We are creating treatment hubs across Europe, one in Czech Republic, one in Italy, probably, one in Germany, and one in Belgium, where the patients and their treating physician will be accepted, and they will receive the Holoclar treatment. The success rate is quite high, of course, but it's vastly dependent on the surgical dexterity of the surgeon. So one of the components of our product is the control on the delivery component of the product. Training of the surgeon, training of the hospital staff involved. There is also a screen here, I didn't know that. What's the market for Holoclar? A note of wisdom. Our 2,500 square meter facility can accommodate a maximum of 110 batches per year. What does it mean 110 batches per year for Holoclar? Means 110 patients per year. So here is a slide. It's very tempting because we are searching for partner. We are searching for investment in the company. There are around 9 to 10,000 patients in Europe every year that can be eligible for treatment with Holoclar. At the current status, we can only treat 110. We receive a very large grant from the European Union to expand our capacity, but as much as you can expand it, you will arrive to 200 patients. You will never be able to cover the 10,000 patients. So for us, the market size is never, unfortunately, the limiting factor. In US, it's the same situation. In US, there is around 10 to 15,000 patients. I always appreciate those anonymized key opinion leader statements. 10 to 15,000 patients in Europe sounds reasonable, anonymous key opinion leader in Italy, but it's actually true. We did a lot of studies, market research, because we just joined the company. We need to know where to go. So we did a lot of studies on the market size for Holoclar, and it's actually true. Those are untreatable, unfortunately, at the moment, until we found a way to access all the patients, to fully centralize the treatment of Holoclar, but they will be in the future. US is an open market for us. We haven't got yet an FDA approval. We received the orphan drug designation from FDA for Holoclar, but we haven't started yet the process for bridging clinical studies in US and for market access in US. We're not going to do that by ourselves, of course. We are a 100-people company. We're not going to do direct commercialization in US, but we are seeking for either somebody for the out-licensing, which will be an interesting out-licensing because it's a very complex product, or somebody for partnering activity to commercialize in US. That's a little bit on the manufacturing process and the peculiarities. You are all in the cell and gene therapy field, so you know what the peculiarities are. I came from a different field. I came from the large-scale antibody manufacturing and antibody-drug conjugate. So a standard antibody manufacturing or a standard biologics manufacturing allow intermediate storage, distribution, manufacturing of large-scale batches. For Holoclar, it's completely different. We have one patient, one batch. So we are heavily regionalized. We have no storage possibility because we start from the limbal biopsies from the patients. We isolate the limb stem cells. We culture them, so we expand the pool of the limb stem cell from the patient itself. At that point, we can freeze the cells, but that's an intermediate of the product. It's not the final product that can be stored and delivered somewhere else. Then we check, we do all the control on the patients. Of course, we do all the incoming control for infectious disease presence, presence of stem cells, so we know more or less how much the outcome of the manufacturing will be. Then we culture the cells on a proprietary fibrin matrix, so we create physically the tissue that has to be reimplanted on the patients, and then we send it to the treatment center, and the treatment center reimplant the tissue on the patient. So this means that we are heavily regionalized. Every batch, sorry, that was not meant to make so much noise. Every batch is a patient, is unpredictable. The variability month by month in terms of forecasting, in terms of production planning, is really huge. We cannot really pull a lot of batches and then distribute it at our will. This is not doable because the intermediate is not storable. The variability on the incoming material is high because what for a normal field will be a key starting material, for us is a biopsy from the patient, so we cannot really control the biopsy of the patient. Nevertheless, EMEA, IFA, and the GMP, common sense, force us to treat this as a key starting material. But we are focusing on all this problem and trying to bring the current manufacturing capacity from 110 patients per year up to 160 in the same facility, and then building a new facility, of course, to accommodate as much treatment as possible. All of you here are familiar with the reimbursement problem that are associated with this kind of product. So we are also working with the regulatory authorities all over Europe to increase the reimbursement price to make it on top with the current requirements. This is the product under development, Hologene 5. To be fair, historically there was a picture of the patients. I remove it because it's inappropriate. The focus here, the only product we are actively developing is Hologene 5 at the moment. Hologene 5 has quite a stellar degree of success in the treatment of the patients. What we are doing right now, because in the initial setting, the surgeon, they were trying to treat the old patients. So they remove 80% of the skin of the patients and replace 80% of the skin of the patients with our product. So it was a one-off treatment, which is quite uncomfortable for the patients. So we went back to the drawing board and redesigned completely the clinical trial, the clinical approach, and we are restarting the clinical trial in those days. We are part of a large investment fund, which is called Eneatech and Biomedical. This has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that we can leverage on our own expertise and support the different component of the network funded by Eneatech and Biomedical. We collaborate with institutional entities. You see Regione Emilia-Romagna, Italy is divided in different regions. This is one of the regions in Italy where we are located. We collaborate with the dedicated cell and gene therapy center for rare disease. We support other companies funded by Eneatech and Biomedical. So we are inserted in quite a large network which are supporting us in moving forward in the progression of the company, so to say. There's supposed to be another slide, but so we recently received a 36 million grant from the European Union to expand first our manufacturing capabilities, and second, our product portfolio. We're trying to diversify our product portfolio outside the rare disease area only, and this project will start next year. It's a joint project with the European Union. The presentation is finished. Now the time is also finished, but if you want to have a chat on the topic later on during the Congress, feel free to contact me, and the contact should be on the website. Thank you very much.